Hey everybody, welcome back. You're watching The Christiana 321. I am The Christiana. If you are new here, then just welcome, not welcome back. But seeing as this is a part 2 video, hopefully you saw part 1. But if not, I'm gonna catch you up real fast. We are reading a short story from this book, Christoph von Schmid. I did end up Googling him, and at least according to Wikipedia, he is German. I was right. He was a pretty prolific children's story writer in the 1700s and 1800s. He was also a Catholic priest. So there you go. That explains all the different Bible verses. We are reading the short story, The Cakes, which so far is about this little kid named Fred who, he's like 10 years old, 10 years old, and his father sent him on a mission to take a letter and some money to this faraway castle lord guy, and the lord guy was like, cool, thanks, kid, for the 10-mile mission. And the kid was like sad because his dad said that maybe he would get a little bit of a reward for his efforts, and he did not get one for the castle guy. But then the cook gave him lots of good food for eating, and so he ate, and then he went on his little merry way home. He got lost. He took a nap. When he woke up, there were some cakes in his bag, and he ate the cakes, and he just assumed that they were from the same cook lady. And then he ran into some like dudes in the forest or something, and they pointed him all the way home, and he went home. And his parents, and that's where we are now, his parents were very happy that he arrived home safely, because it was like the next day, or it had been a while. Alright. So, his father reproved him severely and gave him good advice. Thus it is, said he, among other things, when men allow themselves to be drawn away from the right road to follow their pleasures, you might... Some of the phrasing is weird. I think that's because it... a little bit because it's old, a little bit because it's translated from German. Thus it is, said he, among other things, when men allow themselves to be drawn away from the right road to follow their pleasures. See James 1:14. Yeah, I think he was distracted by a squirrel or something, and some boar, swine. That's how he got lost, was chasing after some animals. You might have perished in that wild wood, far from your father's house, without the poor consolation even of catching that squirrel. So yeah, having the context of him being a Catholic priest definitely makes some of the morals and different elements of the story make a lot more sense. It's all a metaphor. God wants you on the right path, and so straying from that path, even for something seemingly innocuous like chasing a squirrel, can still land you potentially in trouble. A way through life is like a road through a wild forest, where many a pleasure, like that alluring little animal, seeks to entice us from the path of virtue. Oh, virtue. As I, dear Fred, faithfully described to you the right road through the forest, so God points out to us in his commandments the true path for our pilgrimage through this world. Let no earthly pleasure ever seduce you to the right or the left from the way of virtue. See Proverbs 4:26 through 27. Thank you. Not right now. One false step might ruin you forever. Okay, so yeah, now we've moved away from like the abstract metaphor to the father, literal dad of the kid, just telling us the lesson. What's that called? moral of the story. But we're still only like halfway through the story, so I'm guessing there's more to come. The love of pleasure, he continued, perverts the heart of man and makes him insensible to noble and generous feelings. I don't know about that. Because, I mean, being noble and generous can be a form of pleasure. Like, you enjoy helping others and doing the right thing and all that. What's that whole thing about the heart of a righteous man has more of a chance of getting into heaven as putting a camel through the eye of a needle? That's the vibe I'm getting. That might be a very incorrect quote. And maybe that's the Proverbs that he wants us to look at. So his dad kind of come across as pretty righteous, self-righteous. Right. Herr von Hohenstein, that's the noble guy that he sent the letter to, with whom you are so much displeased, because he didn't get the reward that his dad said that he might get. And he's 10 years old, so he probably just like really believed his dad there. Is far from being a bad man. Herr von Hohenstein. But he was so much taken up with his play that he never thought either of giving you some refreshment, though you stood so much in need of it, or some money, though the 100th part of what he had... Yeah. You okay? Though the 100th part of what he had staked that morning would have sent you home as happy as a prince. But guard yourself against that which displeases you so much in another. Let your pleasure or your own will never engage you, so as to make you insensible to the wants and happiness of others. Ecclesiastes 10:20. Oh my god, some of these I feel like count as run-on sentences. They're just really long. Imitate whatever you find good in others. Be ever as kind and generous to all the men as Rosalie the cook was to you in the castle of Rothenstein. So this is where we should have actually stopped. Because now, I think we're going to have a bit of a time jump. Fred grew up a good forester, faithful and true to his employer, open and generous to all, and without one stain on his good name. So, the trip when he was 10 really stuck with him. But he was particularly remarkable for his kindness and charity to travelers. You can't see her. She's being a little bit ridiculous. Charity to travelers and the poor. He never forgot Rosalie's kindness. He went to the castle once to tell her how much she had done for him, but she had left the service, and no person could give him any account of her. From that day forward, he never got any intelligence of his kind benefactress. So, in part 1, he just assumed that the cakes in his bag were from the cook, and they kind of questioned that assumption. Like, if you just find some random food and you don't know where it came from, seems like a poor choice to eat it. Seems like that was a fine choice. Which was written a long time ago, so maybe I haven't heard about the people putting razor blades in candy on Halloween. I don't know. In the course of some years, Fred was promoted for his integrity and skill to the office of chief huntsman under the King's Wood Ranger, and afterwards he made Forester of Tenek one of the most lucrative posts in the gift of his master. I don't know what that sentence just said. He promoted his friend to neck. But that was a lot of words. Apparently also see Proverbs 22:29. After his marriage, he often told his wife, who was as benevolent as himself, of many adventures of his boyish days, and especially how he had been saved from certain death in the forest by the kindness of Rosalie. They resolved that since they could not find her, they would prove their sense of her goodness by as liberal charity to travelers and the poor as their means allowed. They had a good opportunity of indulging their charitable dispositions, as the forester's lodge in which they lived lay on the border of the forest near the high road. A long story. Fred's wife went on one very sultry afternoon to bring a glass of water from the well. There she found a poor woman sitting on the bench which her husband had made under the shady pines near the well for the accommodation of travelers. The strange woman, though clean and neatly dressed, was evidently poor and appeared very tired and unhappy. A wicker basket and her walking stick lay near her on the bench. I got a picture. So, it's going to be Rosalie, or secretly like a witch or angel, I guess since Catholic, that is going to reward them for their good souls. Struck by the mild and woebegone expression of her countenance, Fred's wife saluted her cordially and invited her to the lodge to take some refreshment. The stranger gratefully accepted the kind offer and entered the house. Fred's wife served up a remnant of roast venison and poured out for her a glass of water recently brought up from the cold spring. The two soon became so sociable that the stranger told the whole history of what was weighing so heavily on her heart. I live here, said she, but about 12 leagues. I live, said she, about 12 leagues from here. That's a weird spot to add in the action bit. I think I understand what's wrong with my camera, but I'll fix it for the next video. My husband is a gunsmith and was able to earn much money by making rifles, muskets, and pistols. He worked day and night so that we were able not only to support ourselves and the two children with whom heaven has blessed us, but also to lay aside something for the future. But laterally it was the will of God to send us many hard trials. My husband's hand was hurt so severely by the bursting of a new musket which he was trying that he has not been able to work during the last year. The war which ravaged our neighborhood had already stripped us of the greater part of our property. There was a war around 1848 in Germany. I'm not good on German history, so I don't know if this is referring to a specific war or just like giving the lady some more hardships. The doctor's bill continued a heavy drain as we had no money coming in. We were badly able to meet it, but to crown all our calamities, we lost our only cow by the murrain, which is a deadly infectious disease. I feel like if you're translating something from another language to this language, like, you can use more common words in the English language. You don't have to use real weird ones. That require a footnote, like, just make the footnote the word, you know? We had already raised money on the credit of our lands and house and had no means left of replacing our cow, as the neighbors would not lend the money. Without a cow, we could not live, so I resolved to undertake a long journey to my brother, hoping that he would give the money. I did make that long journey, and now I'm on my way home. I told him my hard case and begged his help. 20 or 30 crowns would have bought a cow for me, my brother. 20 or 30 crowns would have bought a cow for me. My brother was willing enough to help me, but his wife would not allow him to give me a penny. She was displeased with me, she said, because I had married a man with no property. All that was given was a small sum that my brother slipped secretly into my hand. Yet it will hardly cover half the expense of my journey. But it was all the pocket money he had then at his disposal. Alas, she sighed, wiping the tears from her eyes. I pity my brother, and still more my poor husband and children. They are anxiously praying for my return and expecting some help. What a grief it will be to them when I meet them with empty hands. At this moment, the forester returned home with his bag well stocked with game. He saluted the poor stranger kindly. His wife told him how she had invited her to come in, and what a melancholy tale had just been told. Right, Dora, said Fred. It makes my heart glad to see you acting as I would, consoling the poor stranger and giving her a share of what God has given us. Generosity, especially to strangers and travelers, is a most sacred duty. That is a very patronizing way to talk to your wife. And a good reason, I have to say so, said he. And a good reason, I have to say so, said he, taking a chair and sitting down near the woman, while his wife placed a glass of water on the table before him. He then told of his boyish adventures in the forest, and how he had been saved from starvation by the kindness of Rosalie, the good cook of Brachenstein. God is good! Sorry, exclaimed Rosalie. Yeah, so I guess it's confirmed. The stranger is Rosalie. Clasping her hands, I am that cook. Rosalie is my name. Frederick is yours, and your father was the forester of Grafenstall. I can tell you some particulars you omitted in your story. The food that I set before you consisted of soup, green peas, and carrots with smoked beef, and the bowl of milk had a pewter cover with a stag stamped on it, which particularly struck your fancy. You were very much displeased with Herr von Hochenstein, and remarked that he was true to his name. Does Hochenstein in German mean like a stingy dude or something? But I told you he was a better man than he appeared to be. When you left me, you kissed my hand out of gratitude, but against my will. Words cannot tell you how happy I am that the bit of cake saved your life, and that I see you now so happy and independent. Wonderful are the ways of God. See Psalm 19. Yeah, again with the kissing of the hand against her will. I know nowadays, like, oh, you just kiss her hand, that's not a big deal, but I mean, I would say improper nowadays to touch anyone if it is like against their will, you know? There are some things that are generally accepted amongst strangers, like shaking hands or high fives or whatever, and perhaps a kiss of the hand was in that category back then, but I'm guessing not. I should never have recognized you. The slender little forester is now grown to be to an able and fine-looking man, and God, as I see, has blessed you in all things. The forester now expressed his joy on meeting his old friend, and bade her 1,000 welcomes. I thought I knew you, said he, when I met you first, but I could not distinctly remember who you were, or where I had seen you. The thought struck me that you might be my friend Rosalie, though time had made some changes in you. You look old, lady! Come on, Fred. Though he is generous and kind to strangers and travelers and stuff, kind of rude. To be sure of the fact, I told you my adventure in the forest. God be praised! I have found you at last. I am the happiest man under the sun. You must not stir this day. Come, Dora. The best in your kitchen for our friend. So, in order to, like, spread the kindness that Rosalie showed him, he was being super kind to all the, like, random strangers and stuff, right? However, turns out was not being as kind as he could have been, because now he's being as kind as he could have been. Rosalie pressed hard to be allowed to depart. "By tomorrow evening I must be at home," said she. "Now that the heat of the day is over, I will walk a few leagues farther. The 12 leagues would be too long a journey for tomorrow." "That matter can be easily managed," said Fred. "Tomorrow morning I'll harness a pony to my light wagon and drive you as far as I can. I would drive you to your own door if I were not obliged to attend the prince with the hunting party that are on a visit with them." Come on, Fred. Fred's wife was as happy as himself on finding Rosalie. There was no resisting their united entreaties. She consented to stop the night. I'm guessing Rosalie consented to stop the night. However, that is not how the pronouns and sentence structure are written. Editor. The hostess prepared a supper in her best style, and at the end of the meal produced a large cake, prepared in the same way as that which Rosalie had given to Fred. It was wreathed with garlands of the most beautiful flowers, and in the center the words, "To Gratitude," were formed with birch sugar in imitation of pearls. "Oh," said Rosalie, "don't cut that beautiful cake. I have dined so heartily that I will not touch it." "Very well," said the hostess. "But then you must put the cake in your basket to carry it home in the morning to your children. For had it not been for you," said the forester, "we should not now be sitting here, and this house in which I and my Dora live so happily together would have other tenants." You don't know. Maybe Dora would have married the new forester huntsman person. Maybe she has a type. Next morning at break of day, Fred was busy preparing to escort his old friend to her family. His wife had a good breakfast on the table, and when all was ready, she put the large cake into Rosalie's basket, together with other provisions for the road and some few presents for the children. Fred accompanied Rosalie half the journey. When he took leave of her, he promised to visit her as soon as possible and to get his firearms repaired by her husband, a promise which he faithfully performed. Rosalie continued her journey in good spirits. When she approached her house, she saw her 2 children, William and Teresa, advancing on the road to meet her. When they saw her, they sprang forward with joyful cries and asked what she had in the basket. "Oh, wait until we reach home," said she. "You must not be so impatient and curious." Her husband met her at the door, and all entered together. Rosalie told the hard reception she had gotten from her sister-in-law, and also announced the sad news that she had brought home no money. Her husband was sadly disappointed, nor could all she said of the happy night she spent with the forester dispel his gloom. Rosalie opened her basket and produced the cake. The sight of it made the children forget all their sorrows. But when the father saw them clapping their hands and loudly expressing their joy, he could scarcely repress his tears. "What good is the cake?" said he. "Where are we to get 20 or 30 guilders to buy the cow?" But lo, when the mother tried to cut the cake for the children, the knife stuck so fast in it that all her strength could not divide it. "This is a singular cake," said she, meaning Dora. "Maybe leave the cooking to the chef." "It must have been baked too much." "Dora!" She broke the crust, and the first thing that met her eyes were 2 thalers of gold, and below them, in order, a dozen others. Okay, crowns, guilders, thalers. Are these all the same thing? What is the ratio? Is it like dimes and quarters and stuff? Or are they all worth the same? What's going on? Why do you have so many different names for coins? Especially because it was translated into English. I understand, like in Germany, it's like cash, dollars, Monet, Benjamins. I mean, Benjamins don't mean the same thing as cash and dollars, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. Fred's joy on finding the cake in his pouch was not greater than hers when she saw the glittering coin. God is gracious, said she. Frederick told his wife to put them in the cake to enable us to buy a cow and to raise us from poverty. The gold is worth 32 guilders. Okay. So, like 14 thalers. 14 thalers is worth 32 guilders. And some crowns. What is this money? What is going on? Said little William, who was learning his table of coin in school. It will buy us a fine, oh my gosh, children. It will buy a fine cow for us, and then he can have milk and, why is it so difficult for me to read? Thanks. And then we can have milk and butter again, said Teresa, hopping about and clapping her hands. But the father took off his cap, asked forgiveness for his doubt, see John 1:9, and thanked God with tears, and the mother and children joined in his prayer. That piece of cake which you gave many years ago to the little boy, said he, was capital well laid out. We received it back now 100, nay 1,000-fold. See 2 Corinthians 9:9-10. Stopped recording because I hit 30 minutes. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Hopefully I'll catch all of it. Yes, said the mother, and the smallest act of kindness to one of our brethren will be much more amply rewarded in heaven. Laid it on pretty thick there, Christoph. Oh, my dear children, added the father, let us be always merciful, and we ourselves shall obtain mercy. Matthew 5:7, the end. So basically, be nice to people so that in the future you will get something in return. Not necessarily from them, maybe just in heaven, but I guess like when you're talking to children, maybe that's the right way to teach it. But also like, we should just be nice to people, right? I guess like when she gave him the cakes originally, it wasn't because she wanted, or she could have foreseen that this would happen. She couldn't have even foreseen that he was going to need the cakes because he was following a squirrel. But, alright. So that was the cakes. I don't think I'm going to do this again because the first one didn't go so well, and I kind of feel like this one's probably not going to do so well. But if you made it to the end, you are my best friend, and I care about you. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. What's your favorite kind of cake? Mine, I'm not a big cake person, but if I'm gonna go for a cake, probably carrot cake. Yeah, I'm gonna go with carrot cake. I gotta go, because this took a lot longer than I thought it was gonna take. Like and subscribe, and click on one of these videos, or at least, yeah. Bye. Good night, sweet dreams.